way, this dude gave me a book and still have not been able to comprehend that I've never seen my thoughts in textbook form, and you just handed it to me, and I'm freaking the fuck out because I genuinely think we're gonna put it out.
Dude, Mikey, I don't think you realize like how big of a skill that you have the capability to break content down like that.
That prototype ended up turning into 12 and a half. I got to work with Gary and his team for 2 years to create the base of that whole thing. And then Gary evolved it to what it is now at 12 and a half.
Hello, everybody. This is Good Humans with Women and Weapons. My name is Sarah Bauman. I am the artist and founder of Women and Weapons. And this is my lovely and brilliant co-founder and also husband, Jake.
Hello, friends.
And today we have the incredible Mikey Atwood with us. He is one of the founders of Habit Nest, which is a really, really interesting company that we're going to delve into a little bit further. Mikey, my dear, how are you?
I'm so good. I love your guys' energy as always. I'll always remember our VCon hug because it just hit home.
Yes.
You guys are just so fun to hang out with.
Oh my God, you are so sweet. And, just throwing it out there, Persian brother from another mother. Basically, I met Mikey at VCon. I was standing in my booth and he came up to me with like the world's biggest smile on his face. And then I think we basically like jumped off oh my God, you're Iranian too. This is amazing. There's so many Iranians in this space. Are you my Persian brother from another mother? And it just kind of trickled down from there. Yeah. But Mikey's got a really, really cool story. Mikey, so intrigued by you, so intrigued by your story. I read all about you on the Habit Nest website. So I know a plethora about you. However, our viewers do not. And so I think we kind of want to start from the top and get to know a little bit about you and your origin story. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into Web3.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got in the space through Gary Vee. I minted a VFriend, and then I was always aware of ETH from like 2017 even, and had invested then and rode that whole roller coaster. But it was something I just knew would be the future. It was so exciting, and I loved tech. My brother was super into all the upcoming tech in the 90s. So it's something that really resonated with me, that we get to participate in this like new wave of where things are going. So we began, our story begins about 5.5 years ago, where we created Habit Nest with two of my best friends / co-founders, Amir and Ari. And our mission was to help the world build better habits. I want to show you guys actually visually where my journey began, which was with this 8-foot wide calendar I drew in my childhood bedroom. I painted all the walls with whiteboard paint, and I wrote out all these different habits that I was experimenting with. And this I ran for like years, like 2-3 years.
Holy moly.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff here, and I was out of college, so it became like way more doable to do this on a daily basis, basically. But wow, that was my life. I like woke up and I'm like, let me improve myself. And like, I don't know where I'm headed in the next 10 years, but if I'm more effective, happy, creative, efficient, productive, all these things will come, right? That was the mentality. Yes. And smart. I also, growing up too, I was like super overweight, very insecure, worst habits you've ever seen, like World of Warcraft till 5 a.m. for like
guilty here as well.
Oh, my brother. But it was always a big vice for me. And I'm like, I love it, but I want to see if I can overcome it because I have huge ambitions and I feel like this is necessary. So I went through that whole journey. It took me years. It completely changed who I was as a person in such a beautiful way. It just amplified all my strengths. And it was so powerful. And I knew it was also really, really hard. Like it took me years and I failed 100 times throughout the process. Yeah. But going through that, I learned so much. And we wanted to create a journey for people to go through that process with all the learnings I had at the end and save years of trials and tribulation to improve daily habits. So we created these habit guiding workbooks or journals that walk you through the whole journey. And it's a day-by-day process where every day you get something new from a mix of content we pull from scientific studies, podcasts, videos, experts.
So smart.
Just learning something every day to like try and experiment and see if you like it. But we also paired it with action steps. And this is such a powerful page because Now you're not just reading a book about improving one part of your life, you're actually doing something about it. And this accountability was really, really powerful, and led us to grow. That example was for a sleep hygiene journal, but we have them for morning routines, for gratitude routines, meditation, a lot of fitness ones, weightlifting, stretching, digital detox with better screen time usage, like a bunch of different topics. And we ended up growing those. We never raised funding or anything. We sold to date after 5 years now. We've sold 500,000 journals.
Holy crap. Wow.
Yeah.
Way to go, you guys. That's amazing.
Thank you. I'll give one more quick visual here, which is our actual product on Amazon, so people can actually like envision them a little better. But we have really strong reviews. Like look at our gratitude one, of 1,000 reviews, and it's 4.7 stars. Almost all of them are like 4.5 stars plus. So really proud of like the feedback, especially after thousands of reviews. So it's something
that's crazy.
It just like resonated well because it's a very no nonsense approach to improving your daily life.
And Mikey, just to highlight, because we bonded on this immediately whenever you brought this to us, like me personally, and Sarah knows this about me, obviously my wife, I am a psychopath, and I have had for the better part, actually a little bit over a decade, been writing down every single day my goals, things I'm grateful for, recapping the day. But it didn't start out in this beautiful prompted way that I have it now, where everything's kind of dialed in and I have it down to a science. It started kind of like the ramblings of a madman, kind of like yours, my friend, where you had it up on a wall in a dry erase board, but mine was in like different types of journals. I was trying to color code them, and it was an absolute disaster. And so I think it's just so huge. I think it's one of the single greatest changes I made in my life is making these daily habits, these daily goals, these daily, moments of gratitude, and then recapping so that I could gauge progress throughout time. And so you guys are doing like something really, really amazing. And it's no, surprise to me that you guys have succeeded so well. But I do want to highlight that you guys have done so well because you're not just, a couple of people that thought, okay, well, let's just capitalize on Web3. Money's raining from the sky. Let's just jump in and let's do a Web3 product because it's the cool and hip thing to do. You guys are really badass entrepreneurs that have done and succeeded in doing a phenomenal Web2 business, and you want to bring it creatively into Web3. So could you talk to us a little bit more about the transition to Web3 and how you think you can take this really amazing business acumen and skill set that you guys have developed and start to bring it into the world of Web3?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what got us super excited is because we've been doing this for 5 years. So we have a head start of like, we're not just promising better mental health. Like, no, we have like 5 years of products and backing and a proven like product market fit that we can bring. So that was an exciting strength, but how we viewed it was actually from the lens of like, what problems can we solve in this space and what's actually needed here, right? And there are a couple things that came to mind. So the first is just in all these different discords of projects, we see that mental health channel that many people have created, and it's so well intentioned, but it's really hard to run that effectively with structure and to make it have a meaningful impact. Typically, they're just left for like a free for all, figure it out. So that was one thing. And then the second thing was we saw so many great projects have a ton of attention at them when they launched, but that attention over time started spreading more and more thin. And there was, even with me, I hold so many great projects, but I didn't feel there was a reason to come and engage in these projects' discords on a daily or ongoing basis. And that led to a lot of behavior of people just scanning announcements and being a way more passive feel rather than a very active community member for these different projects. And when people become more passive, conversation leads to more like price floor talk rather than actual community bonds and people building a badass like army that's connected and all aligned. And then that leads project founders like you guys stressed out to like balance building a really ambitious roadmap, versus at the same time taking care of holders with daily engagements and activities and facilitating bonding experiences. So like we're just kind of observing all of this because I was participating in the space so deeply, and we're like, okay, I really think we can make an impact here, taking our Web 2 strengths and bringing them here. And that was the whole core of the Phoenixes, which is our upcoming NFT project. And why I'm so excited about it is it's not just a random idea. It's built off of adding value to the space as much as possible and doing something really sustainable for long term. So to like paint a picture of what that actually is, our first route has been through creating these strategic partnerships like we're doing with Women in Weapons that I'm super excited for. Where
Us too.
it's going to be really cool. So we're coming into these different projects' Discords and creating a daily challenge channel run by the Phoenixes and by HabitNets, where we come in and we take the whole community and walk them through a habit building challenge together, where there's different questions to answer and engage every day, different educational concepts, basically taking our journal and repurposing it for these communities to go through together. And that's really cool for us because one, it's going to create in the long term a revenue stream where the projects are able to like create an additional income for us. And then second, where we're able to capture attention from really native places in Web3. And I think that's one of the hardest things people deal with now on a marketing level is like, you launched your project. Now, how do you keep thousands of people's attention on a daily basis? So our approach was not to like fight with these other projects for that, but why not ride on their coattails and empower them and bring value to them and talk to their holders every day and let that come back to us over months and years.
And might I say, like, I think that the community aspect of so many projects is oftentimes some of the strongest aspects of many projects. I think, you know, especially for us, one of the things that we've come to really admire and value about Women in Weapons has been our community. I mean, we jumped into Discord last night and our Discord was bumping. And, you know, I feel like it's pretty much every other day I turn to Jake and I'm just like, God, what did we do to like be blessed with these amazing human beings that are, you know, a part of our community? And so to foster that, I think is something that's incredibly needed and incredibly special as well. But you guys have a very special way of doing it because you guys are so focused and so organized, and the way that you go about things is just so well done. And I kind of want to pivot on that note by saying you quite literally took Gary Vaynerchuk's brain and put it into a book. So clearly you're the person to do this, right? Because like the fact that you're able to do things like that is really impressive. So I kind of want to delve a little bit into that Gary V story and how you kind of like took his thoughts in his brain and like compartmentalized that into a book. And I think that's just a phenomenal story that people would love to hear.
Yeah. I mean, I just realized that what we're amazing at is crafting amazing user experiences and helping people take action to solve problems. So to quote Gary, he kept saying, 98% of you fuckers never take action on what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Like, I just kept hearing that in my head. I'm like, wait, like we're solving this every day for really annoying topics, like a morning routine. I'm like, I can do this for you. That was internal dialogue. And I actually sat out and I had so much of his content in my head that I created this crazy like 200-page note in my mind and then in my notepad, like just typing over a couple weeks. And I ended up taking all of his content and crafting it into a 250-page journal that I made for Gary.
I love this.
Amazing.
All his ideas. And we had a designer and I just sat. I was in Vegas when I was writing this with my family. I'm like, fuck it, I'm not going to go to the pool. Like, let me just sit there and like, work on this.
I'm going to sit in the hotel room and write Gary V's brain out on paper.
It was so exciting for me to do it. I was like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't care right now.
You know
I bet your Iranian family was pissed about this, missing you at the family outing.
Absolutely pissed.
But honestly, though, I mean, look at how that perseverance paid off. Like, Can we delve a little bit into like, what was it? You were at university or something and Gary was talking at the university?
Yeah.
So the interaction.
Yeah, that story.
So what happened is I wrote this whole thing and I haven't really shared the like really ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
But I messaged their team 700 times. I'm not exaggerating. Literally 700 times through like 30 different verticals. Like I messaged every person that worked on Team Gary Vee. I followed all of them. I commented thoughtful comments on every single one of their posts so they would see my name, tweet replies, notifications on everything.
Ding, pro tips. All right, continue.
It's so true. And even then, I wasn't able to break through because Gary's so busy. I actually had a prototype of this in Gary's office in like January. And it took me like 4 months to actually meet with Gary. And it wasn't even through that. That disappeared. Anyways, I saw Gary was speaking at USC. And I'm like, okay, I live in LA. I went to SC. This is my chance. And I drove to campus and I ended up sneaking backstage, waiting for Gary to walk in. And I had this prototype. I sat for an hour, okay? And Gary walks in and I grab him. I'm like, Gary, I love you, man. I'm here to solve one of your biggest problems. This is the first. And he looks at me. He's like, I love you too.
He's so good.
And I have this prototype. It was an even earlier version than this. And I have it open and I'm like pointing to all the different sections and chapters and icons. I'm like, this is how it's set up. This is like chapter 1, chapter 2 is how everything is formulated. And he had to go and give his USC keynote. But I ended up an hour later going to ask him a question. And he had this really cool reaction. I want to play. I'm sharing my screen again.
So I have a question for you.
By the way, this dude gave me a book that is like literally the textbook of my brain. I've literally not stopped thinking about it. And like literally have done this entire interview, kissed that dude, did everything, and still have not been able to comprehend that I've never seen my thoughts in textbook form. And you just handed it to me in that room an hour ago. And I'm freaking the fuck out because I genuinely think we're gonna put it out.
I think so too. I think it's going to bridge the gap between your content and people contextually
I agree.
taking action.
I'm very capable at the macro, but the reason I couldn't get into a school like this is I'm not interested in the micro. You put it into the micro.
Dude, Mikey, I don't think you realize like how big of a skill and a weapon that is, that you have the capability to break content down like that and compartmentalize it into a journal, into a book. I mean, that's a really, really special trait. That's certainly something that I don't have the skill set to do whatsoever.
Yeah. And well, I think that the long and the short of it is why first off, that's just such an amazing story. Every time I see it, I absolutely love it. It really kind of like just gets me excited every time I watch the video. But I think what made you so, that whole interaction so successful is that you isolated a real problem that Gary had and you provided an amazing solution. And I think that that's one of the reasons that you've come to us and why we've decided to partner with Habit Nest is because we have there's a problem that exists in Discords right now where like you want to have meaningful, awesome ways and reasons for people to want to come back all the time. And you noticed that problem and then you went and you attacked it and you made it an amazing solution. And I think like this is just a learning lesson for everybody out there. Like just break the rules, figure out problems, and go out and find amazing solutions for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And like part two, perseverance is such a massive thing, I think, whenever it comes to success. And that's something that clearly you have done. You persevered, you reached out to everybody and their sister, and then you quite literally broke in backstage at USC to go chat with Gary, which look at how magnificently that panned out.
Sometimes you got to break the rules.
Sometimes you got to break the rules a little bit.
That's just all there is to it. That's
you guys
awesome.
don't even know. Like the long story short is that prototype ended up turning into 12 and a half. And I got to work with Gary and his team for 2 years to create the base of that whole thing. And then Gary evolved it to what it is now at 12 and a half. But it was a really crazy journey. And something people don't know, by the way, is the story doesn't end after that USC talk. There was like this project got shut down like 4 additional times. Like it's a whole world. But I really love the points that you guys brought up, because when you really creatively can solve something and do it damn well, and not, by the way, this would have never ever happened if I said, Gary, I have this company and I have this idea of turning all of your content into action never would have broken through at all. Okay. But the fact that I sat and took the time to actually work on this and make it before I had ever even spoken with their team, that is the biggest pro tip, that you can spend a couple of extra days or hours doing that, whether it's like applying, let's say, to even work with you guys. How much more likely would you be to hire someone who sits and said, hey, I analyzed your Discord over the last 7 days. These are the problems I'm seeing. This is a proposal with 2 sample announcements and images that I wrote out, put your logo on.
100%.
You'd hire them like this. You'd be like, oh,
100%.
yeah.
You know, that's something that I don't think I realized until we got as busy as we are, is that, you know, whenever somebody comes up to you and they have an idea or whatever, but there's no like formal proposal behind it, like we are so slammed busy that it's hard to take the time to like ask the questions and really delve into, well, tell me a little bit more about what your ideas are. Tell me a little bit more about what your plans are. Whenever somebody comes to you and they have that plan already laid out, they've got that proposal, it's very concrete, and they can quite literally hand it to you on a silver platter, I think that certainly changes with how likely people are to be able to work with you.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of like piggyback off that, like, I think one of the absolute most exciting things right now about Web3 is that there are a shit load of problems. But a lot of people see problems and they run the other way, or they run for the hills. And it's the real builders and people out there that become eventually successful and get to do awesome things that they enjoy doing, is when they see these problems and they go out and start to build solutions. And so just to anybody that's out there, like, take this as a lesson and just know that there are a lot of problems that need to be solved in our space, and you could be the person to solve one or multiple of them.
Yep. 150%. I'm going to kind of get down to a little bit of the nitty gritty and ask, why Phoenixes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah, definitely.
Give us the deets, the alpha, the 411.
Okay. We got you. First off, sick ass art. Holy shit. My mind is like blown. It looks like Disney drew these. I'm like so impressed with what our artists have been doing.
It is beautiful. Well done, artist.
No, it's been really cool, and it's hard to make birds look cool as a PFP, but we have a 65-page lore document. There is a whole world being built around these phoenixes that will be story told for years to come, and a lot of angles with art of elements and different traits. Like, it's going to be really cool. But past that, just on a vision level, this is a very simple way for people to buy and place a bet on Habit Nest, on us as operators, because our job is to build enough demand and brand growth for the Phoenix NFT to do well. And we're an early startup that has been rapidly growing. And it's a way for people to like attach themselves to what we're doing. But in terms of what that looks like more practically, just to start, we're like, okay, what can we take from our existing resources and package that to bring value to people? So in a really simplistic starting way, we actually created a mobile app that takes all of our physical books and turns them into a digital experience with videos, with tracking, stats, and badges. And that's in the App Store right now. It's called the Habit Nest app. But we built a MetaMask and Phantom integration so that if you're connected to our app and you're holding a Phoenix NFT, 1, you get lifetime access, and 2, we're building a learn to earn ecosystem where as Web2 grows, as our Web2 brand grows, we're taking a subset of that revenue and creating prize pools for people so that they're able to earn as they're taking care of themselves and building better habits. So that's our like beginning phase, right? And I think that sounds cool, but at the same time, the big vision of where we want to go with this is to become the backbone of wellness in Web3. And we're putting our action and money and energy where our mouth is, because the way we're doing that is not just like putting something out there and making a claim. We're being really thoughtful of like, let's capture as much digital real estate as we can in these communities that already have all that attention, and to empower them and every day be in there so that in the coattail 3 months or 3 years from now, that continually just funnels and leaks back into our own ecosystem.
And can I say also, Mikey, a wholesome approach to health, I think, and wellness, because you're taking a mental health, a physical, an emotional, there's multiple different aspects of wellness that I think you guys are tackling. And they're all aspects that really need to be addressed, need to be covered, especially like post-COVID into Web3 with how stressful and fast-paced Web3 is. I mean, there's so many different variables that have led to people having a hard time these days. And I think that these journals are a great way for people to help guide themselves into wellness.
Yeah. Love that you have the vision of being the scaffolding of wellness in Web3, because I think it's most certainly needed. And to your point, when businesses like ours and others are thinking about building and executing long-term roadmaps like games and animation and comic books and all these different things, we want our communities to be happy, healthy, and well-rounded. And we can't necessarily always focus on that. And so I think that your vision for becoming that backbone or that scaffolding is really, really cool.
Thank you. I mean, what I'm excited for is like gamifying this whole process. Yeah. I'm a huge nerd at heart. Like, I love all these games, and we have a couple things in the works that will make that a really interesting experience. But
very cool.
Even for people who aren't actively participating every day, we're building in mechanics where it makes sense to hold a Phoenix. That's all I'll kind of say, but we have a lot of plans to do things that like involves the whole Web3 ecosystem and incentivizes them and communities to participate. So one note I want to clarify is just like, we have really good starting points and like an ultimate vision of how we get there, but I'm really balancing. All I'm looking for in the next 3 months is what works with the community. And I'm not going to say I 100% know exactly our path for the next 1 year, but what I will say is I will not stop until we figure that out. And I'll constantly test and iterate and work with people and communities with my hands in the dirt to find that path to add as much value as possible. And I think that's why we're going to dominate.
I love it.
And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing either to, have a long-term goal, but not necessarily know your path, especially in a space that's evolving as rapidly as Web3 is evolving. Because, you might have set out a path and a plan for the next 6 months or year. However, the rapid evolution of the space may continuously alter that plan. And you may be having to take a boatload of pivots because of how quickly everything is evolving. So I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a smart thing.
Yeah. And to that end, Mikey, give us the details for the listeners at home. Like, when is this coming to fruition? How quickly are you going to be launching and minting? How many units will there be? Give us some of the details for everybody.
Yeah, so our mint is on Tuesday, August 30th. That's for our pre-sale. Nice. And that'll be at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And that's a 24-hour mint until our public sale opens on Wednesday, August 31st at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And the mint is 8888 supply, 8,888 supply. And mint price is 0.088.
Nice.
Cool. And what were you, when you were thinking about this, right? Because let's hit the elephant in the room with a mustache on. It is most certainly a bear market right now, right? And so when you thought about that, what were your thinking on the mint mechanics and unit price and units and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, even 3 weeks ago when we talked, we're like, guys, we're still figuring this out. So our job is to make sure this sells out and to build enough demand to where that happens. And we decided on this just like a couple days ago to really solidify that, because we wanted to make sure, like, if we didn't really feel critical mass, we would just shrink our supply or mint number, whatever, to make it a reasonable market cap. But this is such a fair price and supply and amount for people for what we're bringing to the table here. And we just feel the quality of demands coming in from our 25 strategic partners. And we've done so much allow list marketing and so many cool spaces coming up, that we hit a point that's been resonating really well with people and that they feel comfortable with where we're at.
Very cool. Well, I had to ask because, like, I just feel like right now. There are so many founders, other builders in the space that are thinking these things through. And it's so real of you and authentic to just say, yeah, we made this decision like last week. like it is, these are things that we are constantly evolving in all these decision points and units and everything like that. So I really appreciate you being candid and honest, because I think a lot of people can learn from that.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
just pisses me off when I'm like participating in these projects and it feels like this crazy mystery cloud that's like run by the Illuminati. Dude, these are all people.
Run by the Illuminati, he says.
Every project founder is like, holy shit, how do I figure this out?
Yes.
Every single one. No one knows what the hell they're doing. And I'm just a very practical, like real person with huge ambitions. And I like just being open. I feel like that builds trust. And you feel like I'm a human versus a masterful like puppet who's gonna like play the system perfectly. Like it's so much more real.
Extremely admirable. You're admirable. You're such a lovable human being, such a good person.
You guys are.
Well, I think, we just hit it off like right off the bat when we first met each other. Like your energy is infectious. Like no wonder Gary like looked at you in the eyes and was like, I love you too, man. You're good people. So everything that you guys are doing is absolutely magnificent. The journals are amazing. What you're trying to do for overall wellness is incredible. And we wish the Phoenixes all the success in the world. And we are beyond ecstatic to be partnering with you guys. I just hope you know that. But as a departing note, what is something that you would tell our viewers, any sort of like pro tip, any sort of words of wisdom, nuggets of knowledge that you want to throw out there for people?
Oh, super easily. I mean, a couple that come to mind. One, just take a step back and realize COVID hit and totally threw off our day-to-day routines. And if you're listening to this, you're probably deep into Web3, which further threw off how you're living your life every day. Yeah. And I invite you to begin a process of taking one small step back and just viewing where you are with how you're spending your time and your energy and crafting a lifestyle that you really love. And whether that's using our journals or just you writing something down or even thinking about how to live a really good life with good sleep and good wake up habits and nutrition and whatever that is, I invite you to take 2 minutes and give that a little thought, because it's totally changed my life. And it took me a year of being in the space to actually take that step back. And my second message is I was really lucky because I have the best mom and family in the world who have loved me to like a deep level that I'm like emotionally invincible. And I think I've realized more and more how important a deep state of self-love is and unconditional self-forgiveness, so that you can just be comfortable with yourself no matter where you are in life, and lets you be hungry and ambitious without double thinking yourself, second guessing yourself. So I invite people to really come to terms with exactly where they're at right this very second and give themselves a little bit of love and grace and appreciate their time every day.
I freaking love it. Mikey, you're the freaking best. We love you and adore you. And we can't wait to partner together on doing some amazing things. Before we go, where can our friends find out about you, follow you and your journey and Habit Nest and Phoenix?
Yeah, the best way is on Twitter. So I took over Habit Nest's Twitter and it's just me running it now. So it's at Habit Nest on Twitter. The project account is at the Phoenixes NFT, and that has our Discord link on it as well. And yeah, that's basically.
And I'm about to get real nerdy and say, Mikey, you're the bomb. This is a shameless plug for the hundreds and Amber Vittoria.
Actually,
Jake is also wearing the hundreds. I noticed during the show, and you're wearing a V Friends shirt. So
yeah.
We are supporting Web3 hard right now with our attire, but
Yes.
But anyway,
Awesome.
Mikey, thank you so much for everything. We absolutely adore you, adore what the Phoenixes is doing, adore what Habit Nest is doing. You guys are amazing. So thank you so much for coming on today. We appreciate it.